The San Francisco 49ers are entering one of the most fascinating off-seasons in recent memory, a period defined by urgency, calculated aggression, and the unmistakable pressure of a championship window that refuses to stay open forever. After a season that exposed cracks in both depth and durability, the organization now faces a delicate balancing act between preserving its veteran core and injecting new life into a roster that suddenly looked older, slower, and more vulnerable than anyone inside the building expected. This is not a rebuild, not even close, but it is undeniably a transition, and the decisions made over the next few months will shape whether this team remains a perennial contender or slips into the dangerous territory of almost. One of the most intriguing possibilities hovering over this offseason is the idea of adding a proven, physically dominant wide receiver to elevate the passing attack from efficient to unstoppable. The potential pursuit of a veteran like Mike Evans represents exactly the kind of bold swing that could redefine the offense overnight. Even at 33 years old and coming off an injury-interrupted campaign, Evans' resume speaks for itself, a decade of production, red zone dominance, and the rare ability to tilt defensive game plans before the ball is even snapped. For a team that struggled with boundary separation and explosive plays last season, inserting a towering target with elite contested catchability could unlock layers of the playbook that were largely dormant. The financial commitment would not be insignificant, but the projected short-term nature of a deal aligns perfectly with a team trying to maximize a win-now window without mortgaging its future. What makes this potential fit so compelling is how it would ripple through the entire offensive ecosystem. Defenses already forced to account for motion, misdirection, and the punishing run game would suddenly face an impossible choice between stacking the box or leaving single coverage outside. Evans would command safety help, create space for complementary receivers, and provide a security blanket on third down and in the red zone where the offense occasionally stalled. This is the kind of move that signals an organization understands the difference between being good enough to reach January and being dominant enough to control it. At the same time, the future of the offensive line looms as an even more pressing storyline, particularly with uncertainty surrounding the left side anchored by Trent Williams. For years, Williams has been the stabilizing force, the tone setter, and arguably the most important non-quarterback on the roster. But time is undefeated, and the possibility of needing both a short-term reinforcement and a long-term succession plan has accelerated conversations inside the front office. The potential addition of seven-time Pro Bowl guard Joel Bitonio would represent a fascinating attempt to double down on experience and technical mastery rather than youth. Pairing two elite veterans on the left side could immediately transform protection schemes and reestablish the punishing run identity that once defined the offense. Bitonio's pass block and run block win rates illustrate a player who remains among the league's most reliable interior linemen despite being in his mid-30s. His durability, consistency, and football intelligence would be invaluable for an offensive line that struggled with cohesion. More importantly, his presence could buy the organization time to develop a younger successor without sacrificing performance in the present. Championship teams often rely on short-term veteran injections to stabilize critical units, and this move would fit that blueprint perfectly. It would also send a message to the locker room that management is committed to protecting its stars and recommitting to physical dominance at the line of scrimmage. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the strategic crossroads facing San Francisco, now is the perfect moment to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because this offseason is shaping up to be one of the most consequential in franchise history, and you won't want to miss the analysis as each domino falls. Beyond the offensive side of the ball, the defensive front is quietly becoming an equally urgent priority. Despite having one of the league's premier edge defenders in Nick Bosa, the pass rush as a whole failed to generate consistent interior disruption, allowing opposing quarterbacks too many clean pockets. The search for a disruptive defensive tackle who can collapse the pocket from the inside has become a central objective. A player like John Franklin Myers fits the mold of a versatile, high-motor lineman capable of creating chaos on passing downs while holding up against the run. Pairing interior pressure with Bosa's edge dominance would fundamentally change how offenses are forced to protect, potentially restoring the defense's identity as a unit that dictates rather than reacts. The secondary storyline emerging from the scouting combine also offers a glimpse into the franchise's long-term vision. Athletic standouts such as Kenyon Sadiq showcase the type of explosive traits that modern offenses covet, particularly at positions where mismatches can be manufactured. A tight end with elite speed opens possibilities for formations that stress linebackers and safeties in coverage, adding another dimension to an attack built on versatility. Even if such a player begins as a complementary piece, the potential to evolve into a dynamic weapon aligns with the organization's emphasis on creating matchup nightmares rather than relying on static roles. Meanwhile, the wide receiver room could undergo significant reshaping depending on free agency departures and acquisitions. Targets such as Romeo Dew and Jalen Nailor represent younger options who bring speed and separation ability, addressing one of the most glaring deficiencies from the previous season. Integrating fresh legs into the rotation would not only diversify the offense, but also reduce the physical toll on veteran playmakers deep into the season. The emphasis on speed suggests a philosophical shift towards stretching defenses vertically again, forcing opponents to defend every blade of grass rather than compressing the field. Financial flexibility adds another layer of intrigue. With tens of millions in cap space and the potential for additional maneuvering through restructures and extensions, the front office has the resources to be aggressive without reckless spending. This is a rare opportunity to reload rather than rebuild, to address weaknesses while the core remains intact. The challenge lies in choosing which moves deliver the greatest impact per dollar and which risks are worth taking for a Lombardi Trophy push. Ultimately, this offseason will be remembered for whether the 49ers chose caution or conviction. Standing pat would preserve stability but risk stagnation. Strategic aggression, on the other hand, could reignite a roster that still possesses championship DNA but needs an infusion of speed, durability, and trench dominance. The margin between hoisting a trophy and watching another team celebrate is razor thin, and organizations that recognize that reality act decisively. As the march toward a new season accelerates, every rumor, signing, and draft selection will carry amplified significance. This is what contention looks like in the modern NFL, a constant race against time, injuries, and the relentless rise of younger challengers. If the right pieces fall into place, this team has the potential to reemerge not just as a contender, but as the standard every other franchise is chasing. If you want continued in-depth coverage of every move, every strategy shift, and every hidden implication as this roster takes shape, make sure you subscribe and stay locked in, because the road back to the Super Bowl starts long before kickoff in September, and we'll be tracking every step of that journey.